तमाम हाजरीन की खिदमत में अस्सलामु अलैकुम वरहमतुल्लाहि वबरकातुहू। मौलाना आज़ाद चेयर की जानिब से ये खुसूसी लेक्चर्स का अहतमाम किया गया है, जिसको डॉक्टर पेगी मोहन साहिबा आपकी खिदमत में पेश करेंगी। इससे कबल के प्रोग्राम का आगाज़ हो, मैं तिलावत कलाम पाक के लिए मोहम्मद फैसल MA प्रीवियस के स्टूडेंट से गुज़ार हूँ कि वो तशरीफ़ लाएँ और कलाम मजीद से इस प्रोग्राम का आगाज़ करें।
अस्सलामु अलैकुम वरहमतुल्लाहि ताला वबरकातुहू। बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन अर्रहमानिर रहीम मालिकि यौमिद्दीन इय्याका नअबुदु व इय्याका नस्तईन اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
प्रोग्राम का बाकायदा आगाज़ क़िराअत कलाम मजीद फ़ुरक़ान हमीद से हुआ। प्रोग्राम को आगे बढ़ाते हुए आज के इफ्तिताही ख़िताब और हमारी मेहमान ख़ुसूसी के तारुफ़ के लिए मैं प्रोफेसर सैयद इम्तियाज़ हसनैन साहब, प्रोफेसर चेयर मानू को दावत सुखन देता हूँ कि वो माइक पे तशरीफ़ लाएँ और मेहमान ख़ुसूसी का इस्तक़बाल करें और उनका इंट्रोडक्शन पेश करें। सर।
Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum. As a chair, Professor Maulana Azad, I'm happy to welcome all of you to this first lecture series that we are organizing under the aegis of Maulana Azad Chair. I welcome the Vice Chancellor, Professor Syed Ainul Hassan, distinguished speaker of today, Dr. Peggy Mohan, Chairperson, Department of English, and OSD number 1, Professor Shagufta Shaheen, Professor Nasimuddin Faris, and Mr. Sajjad Shahid, who have agreed to be chair for the lecture series respectively. All the deans of different faculties, the chairpersons from different departments, there are invitees from both within and outside MANUU. Students, teachers, dear friends. Dr. Peggy Mohan is currently a visiting professor at Ashoka University. She is a graduate of the University of the West Indies, Trinidad, where she took a special interest in Creole languages. She completed her PhD in linguistics at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, in 1978, with a dissertation on Trinidad Bhojpuri, the language taken from there by Indian migrant labor in the 19th century. Following this, she took a study of Trinidad Bhojpuri as a classic language death situation. Dr. Peggy Mohan has lived in Delhi since 1979, and that was the year when she taught linguistics at Jawaharlal Nehru University. And this was in our second semester of studentship in JNU that she was our teacher and we were her student since then, 1979. Subsequently, she taught at mass communications at Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. Her multifaceted personality with her varied career included a stint as a producer of a television series in Hindi for preschool children, music teacher at Vasant Valley School, New Delhi, and a prolific writer. She has written many journals, articles, scholarly articles in journals of repute, both within and outside India. I'll be happy to share that she is one of the contributors to an outstanding journal of linguistics published from the LSA, Linguistic Society of America, called Language, where very few from both India and other parts of the countries have contributed. Dr. Peggy Mohan, she writes basically on varieties of issues of social relevance and academic issues, for instance, English in India and the problems it raises in education and the factors responsible for language change. Dr. Peggy Mohan has authored 4 books. Jahaji is her first book. The second one is The Young Suspect. Both of them have been published by HarperCollins. The most recent being The Wanderers, the Kings and Merchants, the Story of India Through Its Languages, a book which has been recently awarded Mathrubhumi Award and Book of the Year Award. In fact, if you go through the book, it provides a detective-like exploration of amazing history of Indian languages, which are, like many languages spread over the world, intertwined with the histories of earlier people and later settlers, producing a fusion between people that got mirrored in the languages they made. If it reaffirms our strong conviction that language in its very existence and evolution resists the notion of purity, and linguistic archaeology and genetics together are connected in telling us that linguistic purity, like racial purity, is an improbable idea, which has a very strong relevance in today's world where we are living. As a chairperson of Maulana Azad Chair, I know that I'll not get a chance to express my gratitude to people who have helped me, because this is my first appearance on the campus and a first responsibility that I'm carrying out as a chair, Maulana Azad. So I should not miss this opportunity before I'm being taken away by other speakers, that I must at least thank the Vice Chancellor of the emerging University of Happening, the Registrar, who really helped me, and a dynamic OSD, now I'll call her, because it's by virtue of being an OSD that should get the work carried faster than otherwise would not have been possible. So I must take this opportunity to particularly thank these people for getting the work done, particularly for a person like me, who has not been to this part of the university and been assigned any task to carry out this kind of a challenging responsibility. Thank you very much once again.
इससे कबल के मेहमान खुसूसी को दावत सुखन दिया जाए, मैं गुजारिश गुजार हूँ हमारे शेखुल जामिया जनाब सैयद ऐनुल हसन साहब, वाइस चांसलर साहब के, कि वो हमारी मेहमान खुसूसी को एजाज़ से नवाजें, सैपलिंग और मेमेंटो अता करें। स्टूडेंट्स से रिक्वेस्ट है, प्लीज़ कम फॉरवर्ड। पहले सैपलिंग लेके आ जाइए जी। शहाना प्लीज कम फॉरवर्ड। मैम दूसरा नहीं, सैपलिंग। मैं गुजारिश करता हूं जनाब प्रोफेसर इम्तियाज़ हसनैन साहब से कि वो वाइस चांसलर साहब को एक मेमेंटो पेश करें, सैपलिंग। गुजारिश हूँ प्रोफेसर इम्तियाज़ हसनैन साहब से कि वो हमारे आज के चेयर जनाब सज्जाद शाहिद साहब को एक सैपलिंग पेश करें। आपकी खिदमत में अर्ज़ करना है कि ये सैपलिंग मानू हैदराबाद में इनका प्रोडक्शन होता है। ये हमारी हॉर्टिकल्चर डिपार्टमेंट से हैं और हैदराबाद में मनु यूनिवर्सिटी हैदराबाद को बेस्ट अवार्ड दिया गया है हॉर्टिकल्चर का। Now, I request the honorable guest and today's speaker, Dr. Peggy Mohan, to deliver her lecture.
I think it is correct. I can use this, not down, page down? Yeah. No, this is the other one. I want to get the other. This is the Urdu lecture. I want the Dakhni lecture first. आपने तो गलत वाला कर दिया। हाँ, देख लेते हैं। Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. मैं कोशिश करूंगी उर्दू में बताने के लिए। मेरी उर्दू तो उस तरह की उर्दू नहीं है, पर कम से कम मैं समझा सकती हूँ। सबसे पहले मेरा तो हिम्मत नहीं है बताने के लिए आप लोग कैसे बोलते हैं। मैं किस लिए दखनी से शुरू कर रही हूँ। I think it is easier, ज़्यादा आसान है अगर हम शुरू करते हैं ऐसी जुबान के साथ जो हम सामने देख सकते हैं, जो मतलब पूरे पास्ट में नहीं है, जैसे उर्दू की बात है नॉर्थ में। So I want to make a model of how languages change, and model तो ऐसे समझ सकते हैं कि एक नक्शा जैसे है। तो नक्शा जिससे हम समझेंगे कि कौन कौन थे, कौन कौन आए और किस प्रोसेस से ये लैंग्वेज चेंज हुआ। सो दखनी तो हमारे सामने है, हम सब जानते हैं, और ये रीसेंट भी चीज़ है। सो वी कैन अंडरस्टैंड कि if the model is similar to Dakhni, then it is okay. We can use it on Urdu. Urdu is thoda more remote past. So I'm going in the opposite direction. Start with what we know and then go backwards and see if this is a good naksha to help us understand Urdu. मतलब उर्दू की prehistory, literature नहीं, literature आप लोग जानते होंगे मेरे से भी बहुत ज़्यादा, but I want to look at how do these things come, under what conditions new languages come. Dakhni is one of the most exciting new languages that, you okay? Yeah. Oh, for the camera, okay. This way, okay. Yeah. So Dakhni is one of the most exciting new languages that we can have. What do you want me to do now?
Please move here.
क्यों?
Camera सुन नहीं आएगा.
Oh, camera. Okay. Camera तो बताइए फिर. इसमें क्या है? Okay. I am going to start. Now, I am from the West Indies. In the West Indies, we had a lot of theories कि वो how do languages evolve, mixtures. earlier we used to say कि ये तो संस्कृत से आया है, ये तो पर्शियन से आया है, as if there is only one parent. तो हम सबको पता है कि वो पिता होते हैं, माता भी होते हैं. There are two streams in a language. Migrants जो आए थे, आप देख सकते हैं उसी तस्वीर से कि मैंने वो तस्वीर बनाई कि सभी तो men है, आदमी. Mostly the kind of people who will get up and go to a new country and not know, and go quickly, not aram se, like they are wandering over 5,000 years. They're coming quickly. Those will be men. Very seldom women. So we have men. And when men come to a country, if they don't marry and have children, they will be extinct. They are gone. So if those men have children, you have to thank local women. Very few women came with these men. So we are all mixtures. I am a mixture too. My father was an Indian student who studied in Canada. No Indian girls. So I look the way I look. And we all have a bit of that in us. So here we go. In the West Indies, can I have this, or the sharing screen is sign showing. When I was a student, they used to say कि शुरुआत में काफी chaos था. Africans came, nobody understood anybody. We didn't know how to talk. We made baby talk type, pidgin type languages. And then out of that, the children only heard very mixed up speech, and that they took that and made mother tongues out of that Creole. Most people still believe that, but in India, we don't see anything like that. We don't see any time in the past where there was chaos. The migrants come into India. They could be Sanskrit speaking, they could be Persian speaking, Uzbek speaking, they could be Arabic speaking on the coast, but you don't get chaos. You get something else. So I am not happy with this model. So I wanted to prove कि ये model पूरी तरह से गलत है, or I need a situation which will allow me to show, and that is Dakhni. So Dakhni is being used to test कि असल में कैसा हुआ था, क्योंकि ये गलत है. Okay? And so yes, children had a role to play, because if there are no children, the language doesn't go anywhere, but there was no chaos. We don't find Aam Janta coming and meeting the migrants and not knowing what to do. We get something else. We meet migrants who come. Let us use the metaphor of Dakhni. People have come from the north. They are Sultanate people. They are speaking Dehlavi. Most probably Dehlavi, maybe a few other things as well. They are men. Very few are women. There are some families later who bring women, but wo zyadatar ye aadmi hai. And they marry local women. Two things happen when they come. One, they marry women and they have children. And when you have children, for the first 5 years, the children are mainly their mother's children. They know their mother's language. They know what their mother is attempting to learn of the Dehlavi. And it's only after the age of 5 they get to think about their father's language, right? So you have that bunch of children. You have another thing going on, and we're still at the Prakrit variety. I'm saying that we have a Prakrit model for early Dakhini. That you also have local men who are educated. The local people are not unpad. There are enough of them who come and say, we are interested in working with you. तो सीख लेंगे आप कैसे बात करते हैं, and there will be some differences, but not so many. So the first people who learned Dakhini, or what they call Dakhini, was speaking something not very different from what you will call Urdu. Then you have something else happening, and they came together later, which is the ordinary people of the area saying, this is a new kingdom, there is scope for us, we are interested in joining, I need more historical information. वो लोग तो बहुत ही लिखते हैं, निज़ाम के ऊपर, पर आम जनता के ऊपर बहुत ही कम लिखा गया. I want to find out more if I can meet historians. But at some point, very early, ordinary people who I think were speaking Telugu decided that they wanted to be a part of the Sultanate. And in the process of converting, changing their names, maybe changing their residence, becoming urban, they begin to speak what they call this new language. The way they speak it is different. They speak a kind of Dakhni, which has a lot more of mixture from the local languages, not in the words, but in the grammar. Now, this is where we get the Creole type thing, except that if almost every language in the world is a Creole at one point in its history, do we want to use that word? So I use the word mixed because Creole has a sense of very Caribbean still. We haven't gotten rid of that. So दो चीजें हुए थे. एक तो you have your Prakrit Dakhni, which is close to Dehlavi, and you have your local Dakhni, and they are separate, but they move together. And in the process of moving together, it's hard to separate कि क्या पहले हुआ था, क्या बाद में हुआ था, क्योंकि सूफी लोग भी काफी थे, वो घूम रहे थे. इनके इन्फ्लुएंस के वजह से ये पहले हुआ था मिक्स वैरायटी, या सुल्तानेट वालों ने पहले प्राकृत वैरायटी किया. बट वी आर गेटिंग अ मॉडल ऑफ दो चीजें साथ साथ होती हैं. And if you tell me if this is making sense, because this will make a lot of sense later for not just Urdu, but all the languages of North India. Urdu is a very central language of North India, where a lot of things happen because it's located in the Doab area. Doab is where a lot of things began, but this is a present day model that can help us. So here we have, I use words lexifier, the original language, the Dehlavi that came down with the Sultanate people. Normally that is on the male line. And as we know, men do sperm donation. They do not do having babies in their bodies for 9 months. That is what women do. So the sperm donation gives you the vocabulary, mostly. Most of what you will find in languages that come via migrant men is that the men give the vocabulary. You will always understand what is being said in Dakhini, क्योंकि वो मिलता जुलता है उर्दू से. वो मतलब कुछ ना कुछ कभी हम गलत समझेंगे, पर ज़्यादातर सेम vocabulary है. वो जो कुछ different है is the grammar. And the grammar is where you find वो जो दिखाई नहीं देता है, वो जो underground है, from the mother's side, you get the grammar coming in as a bunyad. And the bunyad is the local language and the migrant men have given the top. Some फर्ज करिए कि एक अल्फोंसो पेड़ है ना, नीचे से तो you have जड़ जो हैं, they are local. And at one point you say, okay, the jar is very strong. We are going to cut it and put the kind of tree we like, and we will bind it. And you create a grafted tree. So you begin to see that we have the strength that has come from the local language in the grammar, but all the pretty things that you see, all the words, all the Urdu, is actually something that came on the top. So it is two streams of something happening. Tell me if that makes sense. Think about it, because you will also correct me when I'm wrong. Okay, so we use the word lexifier. Oh, जिस ज़बान से तो words आते हैं. Substratum की जो बुनियाद है, जिससे grammar. And not completely. Dakhini, you will know straight away that there are some exceptions. Right? Why does Dakhini have gender like Urdu? It does. But it is an exciting thing. It has some things from Urdu and some things that have not come. Okay. So you know all this. This is just when I'm teaching this in Delhi, I have to show my students because they don't know where this place is. So you don't need this. Now, how do you find out if a language is mixed? This is something I do, maybe not all linguists. I choose features. Look at certain things in Dakhni. Are they things we should look at? Yeah, no point. It's not going to give us any information. So I look at what is different between Dakhni and Urdu and try to see if those differences are matching to Telugu. You understand what I'm doing now? I'm not going to find it in the words. You are not using Telugu words. You are using some elements of grammar. Computer science में हम ये word use करते हैं, operating system. The operating system is not the same as Urdu, but the data input is the same as Urdu. You are getting a very interesting mix. So what are these areas that are different between Dakhni and Urdu? I am sorry I don't have an Urdu font, but कौन आया कि मेरे को नहीं मालूम. Correct? That's not Urdu, huh? You can't say this key is not an Urdu key. It looks like an Urdu key, but the operating system, it's a command from another place. It is something straight. It is that O that you see in Telugu, which is being you. They say, let us get an Urdu word for it so that it will not look so strange to get key. But it's not key. You can't say key like that in Urdu. So what you're seeing here is that was the first thing I would think of, because what is the problem with Telugu for me as a northerner? Ki, I can't make a sentence like that. It's not the way I think. But here you see a mix happening you can read it now, even if it's in English. Yeah. I don't know Telugu. There must be people in the room who know Telugu, but this kaun aaya ki. Hello. Ki there is very Mereku nahi malum is, I can figure that. This is an example of where the mother's language stuck, but it was painted over in colors of Urdu. So if you don't know, you would think it is just, an Urdu expression. Yeah. Ram aata bol ke bola, pan nahi aaya. Bol ke, hello, what is bol ke? Anybody in the room who is Bengali will know it. Anybody in the room who is Maharashtrian will know it is Manun, correct? It's not Urdu. It could be Bengali, it could be Marathi. I have seen it happening in my dialect because we have been out of India for 150 years. But bolke, both of those are Urdu words. But the idea behind it is not an Urdu idea. So what we are getting is another case where a nice brush has painted over an operating system and given you an Urdu-looking sentence, but it didn't come from an Urdu thought. Jis khayal se aaya tha, wo to Urdu khayal nahi hai. This is Telugu. So this is what I mean by mixture, that the top layer, the flowers and the fruits on the tree are all looking like Urdu. The jad, the roots are coming from somewhere else, very strong roots. That is where the plant is getting its water from. Okay? Let me see if I can see any more. I might. You will read this for me. This is your joke. Sajjad Saab told me this joke and I thought it was just the most perfect. You will get it. Nobody in the north understands this joke. You want to read it?
Yeah, I would, but I think most of the people are aware of this joke.
Are they not?
शुमार से कोई साहब हैदराबाद तशरीफ लाए, मस्जिद की खरीद कोई पठान गढ़े थे, उनसे मुलाकात हुई हैदराबाद की, उनसे पूछा कि भाई आपने नमाज पढ़ ली, तो वो पठान की फिर गई। पठान को आप मुज़क्कर मुअन्नस का सवाल आ गया, तो मैंने क्यों पढ़ी कि नहीं की, अपन तो पढ़ लिया।
And everybody here is laughing. And when I say it in Delhi, I said it to my best friend who's from Aligarh, and she said, "Haan to namaz padhi." I said, "You don't understand." Her husband is from Bengal, and he's laughing, but she doesn't see what is the problem. Of course, namaz padhi. This is, incidentally, I've just broken my head to understand this in historical terms, where this came from. This is a feature is not from Sanskrit. It is not from the Indus Valley. It is something that came in ittifaq se, because people who were speaking Prakrits, उनको तो बहुत ही वो मुश्किल लगा था ये संस्कृत। किसी को यहाँ संस्कृत आइडिया होगा कि कितने सारे डिक्लेंशंस, कितने सारे टेंसेस, कितने सारे केसेस, और गलतियां का चांस काफी है। हम आसानी से बेवकूफ बन सकते हैं, तो ये कैसे हटा सकते हैं संस्कृत से? Get rid of the verbs and turn all of them into padhi, padha. Actually, there's a word. It would be something ending in a ta. It didn't only happen in India. This happened in Iran at the same time. कि ये Western, ये बहुत ही गलत, बहुत मुश्किल है, और हम we're not comfortable with all these verbs. Can we make them into something like padhi, padha? So मैंने खाना खाया. I am a woman. It's not मैंने खाना खाई. But they decided that once you have khana and kaya, kaya has to go with khana. And I've just gone through the whole long story कि किस लिए ऐसा हुआ, क्या छुपाने के लिए किया था, happened exactly in Delhi where Urdu was born. And why it happened, it's a long, long story. And it happened in Maharashtra. It happened all over Pakistan. It did not happen east of Delhi. This happened. And we think it's very normal if we speak Urdu and we're from the north. But this is a wonderful example of why should it be in Dakhni, and it's not. It's not in my dialect also. I had to break my head to learn this in Urdu. And I think like some of you have to break your head. So I love this sentence, and I just want to help later to how would you say aapne namaz padhi in Dakhni, because then I can explain to people in the north what you were expecting to hear. I don't know how to say aap. Do you say aap? And aap namaz what? Padhe. Aap namaz padhe. Okay. This is what I wanted. This is missing. I'm going to type it straight into my book right now, because people in the north don't understand this joke. What is the problem that they are having in the south? But you can see that this is a place that did not have. I describe where Urdu came up as if you imagine a cell phone tower, and that cell phone tower is somewhere in Delhi. And it's aimed in this direction towards Maharashtra and Pakistan. It's not aimed the other way. They will not listen anyway in Allahabad, and so they are not concerned. But it's aimed to the west and to the south. And these people are picking up these influences in Urdu, and the Deccan is not yet involved. By the time Dakhni is coming up, the power of this transmitter is off. And so it's no reason why you should be saying, Aapne namaz padhi. It's a very strange thing to say, except if you grew up speaking Urdu, you would think it's a very normal thing to say. You're getting a sense how we are seeing a bunyad of one kind, and confusing the whole thing is on top. We have all these lovely Urdu-looking sentences, and then people come to Aligarh and say, "Mere ko nakko," and nobody knows what they're saying. But mere ko sounds a little bit like mere ko, which I say, and people tell me, no, how do you talk like that? We can say it in the North also. We do, but we get told off for saying it. But so you have the superficial layer, which is to make it all look the same, but underneath it is a very different operating system. One is like an iOS operating system. The other one is a whatever. I don't know enough about computers. But you get the sense that I've given you 3 features. So I'm not looking at the whole language. I'm not looking at the small things. I don't know enough. I just know that I'm looking at areas of difficulty. And those can point out to me what is special about the Bunyad. Now, okay, this I will get to in a minute. But I need to see this because in the Deccan, it's very clear. You know that there was Telugu, and you know there was a Sultanate, you know there were Sufis, you know the approximate date when these things were happening, you know who were the women, who were the men. So you can check the Naqsha if it is working. So later on, when we go to look at Urdu, there are a lot of things we don't know. We will fill them in and say, most probably, based on Dakhni, this is what is possible. So Dakhni is here to tell us what is possible. So here, Sultanate forces, local people, Sufis. I don't know the story. I think that they were around. They were not speaking exactly. When you look at their Sufi poetry, you will not get Apan to Parliya, never in Sufi poetry. So, but they were calling it Dakhni because out of their best intentions, they were trying to be like local people. They didn't notice. And the local people were hearing them and not hearing this namaz padhi thing. Because it didn't matter. They were not linguists. They were thinking, okay, yeah, I like the word namaz, I like the word parna, so we will use them, and they use them in their own ways. Now, here's the question. We have a male and a female issue. The first migrants, as you saw in the opening thing, these were mostly men. They were men for various reasons. Either they're soldiers, they are administrators, they are explorers and adventurers. Men come. So from the Sultanate people, you're seeing males and local females. The local converts were male and female. They had a much greater chance of having children and passing on whatever they spoke. So you have these 2 strands of Dakhni coming up, the kind that is what you see in literature from the first migrants, and you have the other one which will say Bolke and Ki and so on. And we will mix them all up and call them Dakhni until you separate them out and see that these are 2 different streams that began to flow together later on. And we understand that. Let's see if what I have now. Here is an important thing I don't know enough about, and I'm hoping कि इस audience में वो किसी को कोई idea होगा, क्योंकि वो जो कुछ लोग लिखते हैं निज़ामों के ऊपर, सुल्तनेट के ऊपर लिखते हैं, पर आम जनता के ऊपर बहुत ही कम लिखा जाता है. Or I want to know about the little people, because this has become, a lot of people became Muslim, and I need to know facts. I need to know when, under what circumstances, like were they moving also into towns? Were they, names were changing, yes. But you see something happening, a community is formed. That normally happens very fast. If it takes a long time, no language will come. It normally happens within a generation or 2. So I need the historical backup, because I'm only telling you कि संभावना ये है, तो ऐसा हो सकता है, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि 2 generation में होगा, but I need proof. nobody is writing this kind of thing. They're not interested in the little people, you know. So this is important because ऐसा हुआ था इसी area में, पर हुआ नहीं था महाराष्ट्र में. People remained Hindus, they remained wherever they were living, and you did not get a full proper language coming up. You got a lot of variation, mixture. If you were from Maharashtra, तो ये गलती करेंगे. If you were Kannada speaker, उस तरह की गलती करेंगे. It was not stable. But this area is stable. So I want to know, what is the historical story as to why people converted? I have my suspicions, and one of them, do you want to get into all of this? No. One thing I felt when I was going past Hussain Sagar in a taxi, I saw this enormous statue of the Buddha. And I know that there's a strong correlation in India between areas that are where people quickly and happily converted to Islam, and that area was previously Buddhist, not Hindu. So you get that definitely in Bengal, it is known. And here we do know that there was a Buddhist presence. So were people not very unwilling to convert? Did they convert quickly? Because it has to be quick. If it is not quick, the new language will not come. Where am I going to find this kind of information? I'm still talking की probability, ऐसा तो संभावना है, हो सकता है, लगता है कि most probably ऐसा हुआ, पर लिखित में कुछ नहीं है. And I need to find out. One article in Egypt I saw about this. That is crazy. Where are the articles from here telling me about this history, about little people who said, we'll leave our villages, husband, wife, and children will move, and this is now our language, Dakhni. And over time, the rich people's children, for various reasons, begin to pick up this way of speaking. And they pick up a lot more Urdu because schooling is in Urdu. And the two streams begin to fuse. So you're getting a sense of the model. Urdu words, yes. Telugu grammar, yes, not completely. There's one important thing that is not Telugu at all. And that is gender. You have masculine and feminine in Dakhni. Why? You want me to guess? Why you have it in Dakhni and you don't have it in, say, Bengali or Bihar? I have a very small guess that in the parts of India linked to South, we have languages like Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada. Up in the very far north in Pakistan, in Hunza, we have Burushaski. All these languages don't have gender, but they have he, she, and it. There is a kind of a embryo type, not born yet, form of gender, which can support the idea that yes, maybe this is a useful thing. It is not a very strange thing for Dakhni to have. Whereas in Bengal, just no chance. Orissa, no chance. Assam, no chance. So we are seeing different kinds of behavior in different parts of India. और किस लिए ऐसा होता है कि बुनियाद में फर्क था. The bunyad of a language like Telugu or whatever was in the Indus Valley, which is probably similar, is different from the bunyad in the East. So I don't know how my time is going, but I have a feeling that you might have some questions. Huh? Okay. I am getting close to, I'm done. Because I'm used to talking for 2 hours to my class when we talk about these things, but I wanted to give you enough time to you ask me questions and maybe improve my data. Like I showed you things in Dakhni, which you might disagree with. You might say, कि नहीं हम इस तरह से बात नहीं करते. या तो हम वो ऊपर से ये भी करते हैं. So I've given you 3 features. One is relative clauses. You know, the girl who I saw is your sister. So that is a different way of doing it in Dakhni, a South Indian way. He told me that he was not well, in a very South Indian way. And the other one is this nay thing not being there, which I'm very happy with. In fact, I remember once when people were saying if ever anything Hindustani had to be a language of India, this is the best candidate, because at least many more people would find it comfortable to speak than what we have in the north, which is getting worse and worse by the day and more complicated by the day. But nobody's ever understood that these languages where adjustments have taken place are always the best languages for a new group, because the more difficult you make it, the more people will reject it. जैसे वो बोलते हैं कि वो शुद्ध हिंदी वो तमिलनाडु में वो कैसे बोली जाएगी, वो लोग बोलते हैं कि हम नहीं बोलेंगे, क्योंकि वो सही समझते हैं कि आप ऐसे लैंग्वेज दे रहे हैं जो हमारे लिए मुश्किल होगा, ये मुश्किल नहीं है. So this is my first attempt. I want to see what you ask me. If you don't mind, we can give over to questions at this point, because I think you might have a lot to say. I wanted to start with Dakhni because now you know where I'm going to go. The lecture on Urdu is going to take this kind of path with a few more maps. Okay? Yeah. Okay.
We open up for questions.
Yeah. It wasn't too
And
short.
questions please, not detailed on Hindi speeches.
इससे कबल के आज की चेयर को दावत सुखन दूँ और आपको क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर्स के लिए दावत दूँ. 2 जुमले सर आज के चेयर के लिए बयान कर दूँ, फिर आप अपने सवाल पूछिएगा. शुक्रिया. जनाब मोहतरम सज्जाद शाहिद साहब जो हमारे बीच मौजूद हैं, नहायत ही मुअज़्ज़ज़ शख्सियत. आप एक सिविल इंजीनियर होने के साथ साथ नहायत गहरा ज़ौक़ रखते हैं हिस्ट्री का, कल्चर का, आर्ट का और आर्किटेक्चर का. आप सेक्रेटरी हैं सेंटर फॉर डेक्कन स्टडीज़ और को कन्वीनर है इंटैक हैदराबाद चैप्टर के. आपका ताल्लुक़ एक मुअज़्ज़ज़ ख़ानदान से है जिसकी अपनी एक तारीख़ है यहाँ पर, और जिसने 7th सेंचुरी से यहाँ पर अदबी ख़िदमात को जारी रखा हुआ है. आप एक डेडिकेटेड हेरिटेज एक्टिविस्ट भी हैं और आपने अवेयरनेस फॉर द प्रोटेक्शन एंड प्रिजर्वेशन ऑफ बिल्ट हेरिटेज के ऊपर बहुत काम किया है और आप कोशा रहते हैं इन मामलात में. अब मैं गुजारिश करता हूँ सर से कि आप अपना सवाल पेश करें.
मुझे नंदिनी कहते हैं. मैडम पेगी मोहन, उर्दू इज कन्वीनिएंट फॉर यू? या ओके. क्योंकि आपने बात रखी कि मैंने नमाज पढ़ी और मैं तो नमाज पढ़ लिया. मुझे नहीं मालूम कि तेलुगु जबान का क्या स्ट्रक्चर है ग्रामर का, जिसकी बुनियाद पर ये होगा. उर्दू में मैंने नमाज पढ़ी इस जुमले में ऑब्जेक्ट को ख्याल करते हुए पढ़ी का लफ्ज़ इस्तेमाल करते हैं. मैं ये जानना चाहूँगा कि मैंने नमाज पढ़ लिया, क्योंकि आपका काम दखनी पे है, इस स्ट्रक्चर के पीछे क्या फैक्टर है कि मैं नमाज पढ़ लिया, मैं तो पढ़ लिया, ये मैं जानना चाहूँगा. क्या ये तेलुगु स्ट्रक्चर पर बेस्ड है या ये दखनी उर्दू का अपना इनोवेशन है?
Okay, should I take the question? This is one I just worked on. Okay. देखिए ये काफी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है, पर मैं इसकी हिस्ट्री में मैं थोड़ा इंग्लिश और मिक्स कर लूँगा. Once upon a time, about 2000 years ago, 2000 साल पहले, there was Vedic people had reached the Doab. That is the area where 1000 years later Urdu would come. It had not come yet. These people were not speaking Sanskrit at that time. They were writing or working in Sanskrit, but they were mostly speaking Prakrit. Speaking Prakrit means they were not really comfortable with Sanskrit. The thing they were most uncomfortable with Sanskrit is all the past tenses. And the past tenses were similar to what you get in the south of India, in Bengal, in English. I did, I ate, not by me done, by me eaten. So we had normal past tenses. The problem in Sanskrit is there were so many different endings that people were not comfortable. At some point, they decided that we don't want to violate the grammar of Sanskrit. And in India and in Iran at the same time, it happened. Yes, ending here ta, rehta. We'll keep this ta instead. And ta is where the pari actually comes down the line from something paritta. So we will keep this ta. And it will save us the trouble of putting all these extra endings onto the verb. So when we don't have to do that, then we can say we can talk. The problem is once you put a ta ending, rehta, it is an adjective and it needs to, you have to think, is it masculine or is it feminine? Verbs are never masculine and feminine in most languages. But the minute you put this ta and rehta, you have to think about how will it connect with the word khana. If it's khana, khadita, or khana khaya, it has to agree in gender, and it can only agree with the khana, it can't agree with me. Because nobody is eating me, they're eating the khana. The khana khaya is food is eaten. So suddenly you turn the whole thing around and you turn the verb into an adjective to make it simple, but then you have to change the whole gender thing because it has to agree with khana and it cannot agree with me in this part of India. So, and in fact, in the old days, it also had a case ending. If you look at all the Prakrits, you would see something with an at the end. So they had all these ways. The verb had basically become an adjective. So therefore, it had to agree with a particular noun, which, as you said, is the object, because that's the nature of this verb. You can't say I eaten. It's the food that is eaten. You know? You can say I eat, I ate, but food, if it's eaten, and khadita, rehta, all of these are eaten, E-N. So it becomes an adjective. And this is you can see this is a complicated, slow process which took place over hundreds of years. And eventually what happened is we got a verb system in Urdu, and Urdu was the epicenter of where this was happening. That was very strange. It did not come from Sanskrit. It did not come from earlier languages of the area. It came because of a reason to get away from difficulties in Sanskrit. So when this language came to the south, there was no such problem because nobody was trying to get away from difficulties in Urdu. The only difficulty in Urdu was this, namaz pari. Hello, why is it pari? So suddenly the old system got restored in Dakhni. It's very exciting because if you look at it, at first you will say Urdu is different from Sanskrit. But in fact, this has come from Sanskrit. It's come from a fear of the difficult verbs in Sanskrit. So it's a very long story, very interesting story. But the point is it's recent in Urdu. It is recent means 1500 years. 1500 years is recent in terms of India. So it's very exciting. I just finished working it out. It's like doing a maths problem.
Professor Sarma Baromi, please.
Please take it.
Ma'am, it was a very good lecture, very interesting, especially a person like me. I found it really important for us to add to our knowledge. There are a couple of things which you asked, so I'm tempted to reply. You generally spoke about the interpenetration of Prakrit with Telugu leading to Dakhni. Sort of. Okay. So I find it a little far-fetched, the Prakrit, because that was during the time of the Satavahanas.
Oh, no.
Okay, I'll just okay. What I understood is Prakrit having its interface with Telugu and then leading to Dakhni. I mean, I found it a very long time period. So, but maybe Prakrit was a language of the masses. It was not spoken by the elite. So,
It was only by the elite.
no, Prakrit was spoken by the masses in the Deccan, not by elite. It was spoken, only Sanskrit was spoken by the elite. So what happens is Prakrit really became the language of the masses. And Telugu was a classical language that developed later during the time of the Kakatiyas and the Reddys. So Telugu then became a language of everybody. But Prakrit, being spoken by the masses, would definitely have had remnants of people remaining. Because when Ashoka came till Deccan, that was the time all his edicts also were issued in Prakrit. So Prakrit was here to stay for a pretty long time because Buddhism had a major impact on the Deccan. This was during Maurya's time. So what we could really understand is that Prakrit, of remnants of that would have remained in society because the language doesn't really get wiped out.
So can I cut you short on one thing?
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
talking about Ashoka and Prakrit. I'm using Prakrit as a technical term for any language. We are speaking Prakrit now. We are speaking Prakrit English because this is not British English that we're speaking. Prakrit is what any educated person speaks that is not the original language. And similarly, the people who wrote in Prakrit and spoke in Prakrit in old days were in fact elite people who were not writing at that moment. So Ashokan Prakrit was a language of empire. So that is, but let's forget about those. I use the word in this context not about Ashokan Prakrit. I use it as a technical term to mean the kind of Urdu Prakrit, a Prakrit version of Urdu which was not Dehlavi. It was close. It was almost the same. There was mainly an accent difference and a few little things which had slipped in that seemed to be local. So I'm not using it in the form of Ashokan Prakrit or the Magadhi or those. So, and the other thing you talking about Telugu, yes, or I'm just creating a model which is exactly around the 13th, 14th century, where in came Dehlavi, which is early Urdu, which is the Sanskrit level, the elite who came in, the men who came in spoke it. Then comes the Prakrit, which is what their wives and their children speak, this version of Urdu, which is close, quite close, not very far. Then comes what the Telugu speakers do when they create this new Dakhni, has a lot more mixture from below. My mistake is by using the word Prakrit that I give the impression I'm talking about a particular Prakrit. No, it is a kind of Prakrit is not a mixed language. The mixed language is Dakhni. The kind of people who spoke early, what they call Dakhni Prakrit, was so close to Urdu that if you didn't hear accents, you might even mistake. Like you and I, if somebody wrote what we are speaking, they would say it's international English, but then they'll hear the accent and they might hear that we might say, this is with me only, which is Indian English, because it'd be avoiding the verb to have. So we are speaking Prakrit right now. Yeah?
Yes, and the last point is that an important landmark which we could maybe perhaps identify in the Deccan is Muhammad bin Tughlaq's shifting of the capital from Delhi to Devagiri, which was renamed Daulatabad. That forms a watershed in Deccan's history because that's when the entire migration took place from north to the south. And then not everyone went back to Delhi again. Many families after families stayed back in the Deccan. So that's where the languages started intermixing.
But then there's the other thing, that a lot of people who had nothing to do with the migrants were actually attracted to the kind of kingdoms that they built. And there are people who came in who probably did not have any ancestors among the migrants. They were local people who were convinced. And this is what I also got from this paper that you wrote, that the Sufis had a strong role to play in this, which I don't fully understand.
There
But
were
I
many,
need to know
many
the
Sufis who also established their Khanaqahs in the Deccan. Some of them came from north. Some of them were you could say native to the Deccan. So I mean, with just a few points which.
Yes, you mentioned that article of mine. Basically, I cannot quote right now because I don't have it in front of me, but even early Sufis who came into the Deccan, Daulatabad, we have instances of their marrying local Hindu women. So that would be a major, kind of change point where you had local people getting attracted. Otherwise, that wouldn't have happened. And I think the problem here was Prakrit, because we are talking about Prakrits, not the Shogunpura that Peggy has made here. Anyone else, please?
It's a small point. Very simple and small.
Please pass it on.
It needs to be recorded.
Peggy, you said you spoke about the tree, the roots being local, and the beautiful flowers up there from the Alfonso. I do not know if you can generalize that the special characteristic of Dakhni is only the grammar and vocabulary all comes from the north. I do not know because I've been in the north for a long time, and I noticed that Urdu speaking or Dakhni speaking people here, irrespective of class and things, they would use more Urdu words, which are not being popularly used in the north. For example, I would hear a rickshawala saying Muzakhani, so Muzakhani. In the north, it would be Parwana. Commonly, I'm not specifically saying anything. Then I would say Chahar Shumba, Hafta, and I would hear Sanichar and Buddh in the north. So things are happening. So I wanted your comment.
That's getting into something I didn't actually talk about, but which I fully expect. Remember, I am a person from the Caribbean. The kind of English I speak is similar to English in the way that Dakhini is similar to Urdu. We speak a very old English, Creole, which has very strong African roots. So the point is that when two languages stay together, like the elite version of Dakhini and the Dakhini spoken by very ordinary people who have no link with the north, over time you start getting a pull, and the pull is towards Urdu because that is the written language. There is a pull. Like right now I'm speaking English, my friends would be very surprised. My accent has changed. I don't sound like a Caribbean person anymore. Over time I have changed, but there's certain things that are old that we will keep. Like we will use a word like Bex, B-E-X, which we don't use in English anymore. So you're beginning to see old things that you think of as yours that you keep. But there is a direction of flow. And I notice if I can walk around in Hyderabad that everybody understands me. And I understand pretty much everybody if I don't notice that they said Bolke or something like that. That there is a pull in all these mixed languages towards whichever is a language that is of power or gives you more opportunity for jobs. So it's dynamic. It is not a static thing. Yeah.
Okay. I think we'll have to end that question answer. If there is anything left after the second talk, maybe we have an opportunity. Before concluding the session and the Honorable Vice Chancellor's comment, you set me off on a lot of things. Bol ke bole, there's a superlative degree for that also. Bolo bol ke bole. That's that. Yeah. I'm in trouble already. One thing I told you, I didn't wrote it down and made a slide of it. So I think I agree with Professor Sarma Faruqi on this point that this Tughlaq force movement would have resulted in a massive inflow of families, not just men coming in. And that was not too many years after the initial 1295, I think, first 1295 first incursions into the Deccan. Deccan is already exposed to Delhi, as you said. Khusro is here in the Deccan. He comes here, so there is a direct impact of Khusro. Of course, he writes one of his Masnavis, Khizr Khan, Dawal Rani of Khizr Khan, on the Deccan and North. That would be I don't know whether, I'm not a Persian scholar, so I will be better in telling you whether there is this element of the two different cultures coming together there of Deccan and North Indian existing culture. लेकिन ये है कि ज़बान के बारे में आपने जो कहा, everyone is proud of their own language. North Indians are proud of their language. There has been a long tendency of ignoring the South. Now things are changing. I think Shamsur Rahman Faruqi was the first person who recognized कि ठीक है भाई दक्कनी भी एक ज़बान हुआ करती थी. So I think those days are gone now. New avenues are opening up where people recognize that there are other literatures, other languages. And I don't know, people have told me that the Dakhni is a language long before North Indian Urdu became formal language. We already had a language here which was creating some of the most beautiful literature. And one area which I would like you to look into is Dakhni literature. Now I know there is a ingrained क्या कहेंगे, war going on between linguists and those who language experts and literature experts, but the point is Dakhni is different in that too. Of course, Professor Nasibuddin Faris is here, he'll speak on that more. But the point is, in Dakhni literature, it was being produced by people who were well aware of Persian and Arabic. They were masters of those languages. Despite that, they were writing what you said was the Prakrit of it became. So that conscious effort led to their recording each and every word as it was uttered by the masses, not the elite. That is the difference. It is only later that the elite of the kings and everyone started writing poetry in Dakhni. Dakhni first, the first writers of Dakhni are Sufis, are the common people. It is only later that the kings and all start writing. Of course, that gave it a status. The other thing is an obsession of the Dakhni poets to very faithfully reproduce words and write them as they were spoken. So even the distortions are very well recorded there. Hati will not be written Hati in Dakhni ever. It will be Hatti. And it's pronounced Hatti and it will be written Hatti. So all these words, that's I think a mine of for information and source which has not unfortunately been tapped this year. There should have been a lot of work on that. I hope you look into those aspects also. I thank Maulana University and the chair, Maulana Chair Professor of the University and the VC, of course, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you. I think the computer will take over and we see.
Thank you, Sanjay Shai Saab. Well, now there has been conflict of interest, the linguists on one hand and the historians on the other. And what I see, say some 12 years back when Professor Irfan Habib delivered a lecture in JNU in School of Languages, and many language teachers and students, scholars, got up and said, okay, please don't intervene in our matters. So this is happening everywhere, and now it is happening here. But you see, history on one hand, they rely on sources, but linguists go beyond the sources, I believe, because they do a lot of surveys also. So this is one kind of understanding we should understand. I mean, without having any kind of grudge against each other, rather to accommodate each other. So when Muhammad Tughlaq, he is mentioned, well, this is your part, you can utilize your history sources. But when the linguist talks about, language which is alive, language which is dead. Some dead languages are also noticed, and dead vocabularies also. One can believe that vocabularies are traveling all over the world. And today we talk about globalization. In trade, and in economic terms, globalization, because there are a lot of markets, everywhere. New markets are coming up. And that's how interminglings are going on. As I say always that, Dubai, I visited recently Dubai and I saw the kind of language emerging in Dubai and Sharjah. You will find, 50 years later, you will find a new language. Because of these interactions, a lot of interactions are taking place. So therefore, when migration started, people started in search of better pasture, better land, better hygiene, better environment, a lot of things. But one thing is true, what Peggy was telling, that the local culture remains very strong. Please try to understand local culture. When you talk about Prakrit or whatever you say, Hindavi also, Amir Khusro. But you can't bring Hindavi in Hyderabad. Though Amir Khusro influence, all, Sufi saints are under the influence of Amir Khusro. He was pioneering. But nonetheless, even Bedil wrote something in Hindavi. People don't have that record. But he was a poet of Persian. And that's how Indian Persian, totally Indian Persian is given. Professor is sitting here, may correct me. Therefore, things are traveling all along. But I don't know whether I should call it, mother tongue or father tongue or what tongue. But the first language, a child learns, that is. But there are bilinguals also. Day one, a child learns 2 languages together. There are instances like Pashto and Dari. In Afghani, in Pakhtunistan, you will find both the languages. So here also very strong culture in the south. And then हम बात करते हैं जब उर्दू और हिंदी की कभी कभी मिसाल दी जाती है, उर्दू हिंदी में भी, उर्दू जड़ों की जबान नहीं है, उर्दू शाखों की जबान है। वो रख रखाव जो है, कहते हैं नवाबों से निकल के आने वाली, और उसमें तूती कुत्ते से लिखा था खाना खराब में। बताइए, थोड़ी सी स्पेलिंग में गड़बड़ हो गई तो चिल्ला उठे। ये तो रखरखाव का आलम था। फरीद साहब, आप समझते नहीं, क्या समझ रहे हैं? अरे आप तो उस्ताद हैं उसके। See, this is happening कि आप जरा सा आपने गलती की और उसमें आप पकड़े गए। ये सब एलीट कल्चर था। But these Persians and Turkish people, when they came to India, they accepted Indian titles, Raja Maharaja. They became Raja Maharaja. उनके अमीर और जागीरदार, मनसबदार, ओहदेदार ये नहीं बने। यहाँ का टाइटल महाराज कुमार, महमूदाबाद महाराज कुमार, राजकुमार, महाराज कुमार। ये तो पर्शियन के तो है ही नहीं, ना अफगानिस्तान में, ना ईरान में, ना टर्की में, ना उज्बेकिस्तान में, ना ताजिकिस्तान में, कहीं नहीं है। वो यहीं की चीजें। You have to accept the local reality, and that's how we say कि शाखें अलग हैं, जड़ें अलग हैं। हमने अपने घर पर बरगद के पेड़ पर आम का पेड़ उगा दिया, उगाया हमने, उसमें लास्ट ईयर फल भी आए, 5-6 आम के फल आए, बड़े खूबसूरत खूबसूरत आए, बरगद की जड़, और उसमें कौन सा आम, उसकी जड़ बरगद की और आम फल रहा है उसके ऊपर। ये लिंग्विस्टिकली नहीं हो सकता, हो सकता है। और आप जो फरमा रहे हैं, हमारे बड़े करीबी दोस्त और अजीज और बड़ी मोहब्बत करने वाले सज्जाद शाहिद साहब, इनकी मोहब्बत, इनकी इनायत, इनका फजल, इनका करम, इनका लुत्फ, इनका सब कुछ है भाई। यहाँ की जो जबान रही है दक्कनी, उसका रिकॉग्निशन दिल्ली में हुआ है। आप ये मान के चलिए। देखिए, बहुत गुस्से के शोले सूं जलते को जलाती जा, मत गुस्से के शोले सूं जलते को जलाती जा। ये वली दक्कनी कह रहे हैं। तुझ घर की तरफ सुंदर आता है वली दायम, तेरे घर की तरफ नहीं कह रहे, तुझ घर की तरफ दायम, है ना, न ने न मैं न कुछ नहीं है उसमें। और मीर क्या कहते हैं, आप इसी शेर से मैं खत्म करता हूं, कंक्लूड करता हूं। बट यू say 100 points to Peggy Mohan, that the way she has looked into the case study of Dakhni, a person belonging to a different set of life, in fact, but coming down to in a Deccan and producing something Bible, that's, one must admire. So what मीर says, खूगर नहीं कुछ यूं ही हम रेख्ता गोई के, माशूक जो था अपना बाशिंदा दक्कन का था। सी महबूब, मीर का महबूब दक्कन का बाशिंदा था। बट आज मैं उधर से आके बहुत सारी चीजें यहां समझ नहीं पाया, जाके आता हूं मुझे समझ में नहीं आता है। इसका मतलब आएगा नहीं, जाएगा, सिर्फ जाके आता हूं, इधर आता हूं। अब भाई क्या भी नहीं होता, ये क्या से शुरू होने वाला जो है वो सवालिया है, क्वेश्चन है, क्या भी नहीं होता, इसका मतलब कुछ भी नहीं होता। तो हम लोग उधर नहीं बोल सकते क्या भी नहीं होता, है ना, बोल के बोला, ये बोल के बोला हमारे समझ में नहीं आता। बट अदरवाइज इसका इतना स्टेटस है, उसका अपना स्टेटस है। जबान को जबान से छीनना नहीं चाहिए। बट वी मस्ट गिव ए बिग हैंड टू प्रोफेसर पैगी मोहन। ओके, थैंक यू वेरी मच।
इंशाल्लाह थोड़ी देर के बाद हम अपने दूसरे सेशन की तरफ बढ़ेंगे। उससे कबल आपसे गुजारिश है कि चाय नोश फरमाएं बाहर जाके। तमाम मेहमानों से गुजारिश है, तमाम स्टूडेंट से, हमारे मुअज़्ज़ज़ असातिज़ा से गुजारिश है कि 10 मिनट का वक्फ़ा है चाय के टी ब्रेक का। इंशाल्लाह हम फिर हाजिर होंगे अपने दूसरे लेक्चर के लिए। आपके ताउन का बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया।